Hey guys, it's Mo. Are you so excited about Azurite Sea coming in a couple weeks? I know I am, and today I want to talk to you about my top 10 cards from this set. We'll say 10-ish because I couldn't just talk about 10. So let's get into it. Here is some honorable mentions I have. We'll start with Mosquito Bite. This card is 1 mana, inkable, or 1 ink, inkable. Put 1 damage counter on chosen character. Notably gets around resist just from phrasing. This card is interesting. I don't think this will see a lot of splashability in green decks. Just a 1 damage ping is not super noticeable, but it adds such an interesting... It fills a need for all these ping decks that have existed that deal damage or do something if your opponent has a damaged character. And this is just a neat little just trip effect for all of those that I know we're going to see some exciting stuff come out of this set just because this card exists. I'm happy for it. Second card we have is Twin Fire. This is a 2-cost, uninkable from Steel. Deal 2 damage to chosen character. Then you may choose and discard a card to deal 2 damage to another chosen character. Diablo hunting's on the menu. This card gives you some versatility to be really powerful against other decks. And just things that would just stand in general. You can't deal 4 damage to one character. They both have to be chosen and another chosen. Still, it's a really interesting card that fills a cool niche. Third one here is Calhoun. She is from Wreck-It Ralph, one of the Space Marines. This is resist +1, and during your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you gain 2 lore. So resist +1, 2-cost uninkable, 3/2. This card is insane. It's mini Robin Hood. Honestly, it was really hard juggling this card and between this card and cards 9 and 10 on my list, but I ended up pushing this one back a little bit further. I think I just haven't had enough time to really explore this card and where it will fit, because right now it's very comparable to Smee, but I would say if you have room with the uninkables, it's very powerful. Continuing the audible mentions, we have Goofy Expert Shipwright, 5-cost, inkable 1/4. With that stat line, you're like, what? And then you see it, it quests for 3. Oh, it has ward, so it's almost guaranteed to quest for 3. Then whenever this character quests, chosen character gains ward until the start of your next turn. This was another card that it was just like, oh, how do I not put this on the top 10? When you look at this card in a vacuum on paper, it's kind of insane, and I'm sure we're going to see it pop up. But it doesn't do anything when played, and it's going to take roughly a turn or 2 to see the full effects of what you're trying to do with it. Sure, some people are going to break it out there, but I don't think it's going to be like, oh my god, this is a mandatory 4-of in any Emerald deck. No. Here's another card, a 6-cost, uninkable, Hades Lord of the Dead, 3/4, quests for 3. During an opponent's turn, whenever one of your characters is banished, gain 2 lore. This card is bonkers in a lot of ways. A lot of people are looking at this card for aggro, and I think it costs a little bit too much to be an uninkable in aggro, but I think this will really fundamentally change the way you play some control mirrors. And it's just kind of a crazy card. Yeah, you can Medusa it. Yeah, you can Ice Block Sisu it. But the important thing is, what if you don't have it? Or what if it doesn't go through? You can just set up so many game shots, surprising game shots, by having little 1-drops out with this card. It does come out in the same turn as Medusa, but still a very powerful card that I'm sure we're going to see some play throughout. Shout out Emerald Amethyst here. It's definitely a card I would consider if we didn't run so many uninkables. And then finally, in my top card, last runner-up, is I'm Still Here. I'm not even going to read to you what this effect does. It's not important. It's my favorite song in any Disney franchise, so I had to call it up. I'm just glad it's a playable card. It's fine. It's fine. All right, let's get into the top 10. At number 10, we have Genie, Wish Fulfilled. 4 cost, uninkable, 2/4, quest for 2. You see the uninkable 4 cost and you think, wait a minute, that's Rabbit's music. There's already a card in purple that does this. Well, this card's very similar to Merlin Rabbit in general, but it comes with a little extra bonus. So when you play this character, draw a card. So it's half a rabbit by itself. It is evasive and it quests for 2. This is so powerful in mini decks, Emerald Amethyst being one of the first ones that come to mind, because of that evasiveness and just your ability to put pressure on with this card after it already replaced itself. It is fantastic. The only downside is it does compete with that slot of Merlin Rabbit, and it doesn't replace Merlin Rabbit. Like, the Merlin Rabbit draw package is too strong to consider in this currently discard-oriented meta, and it's looking like set 6 will be pretty discard-oriented as well. And not having the extra draw to bounce to hand definitely hurts a bit, but this card does so much. We'll be seeing this in quite a few decks, quite a few Amethyst decks. I can imagine Ruby Amethyst will take a look at it. It reminds me, and I believe I've heard this from somewhere before, so forgive me if someone's already talked about it, but it reminds me a lot of the red Minnie Mouse, the 1/3 that quests for 2, evasive. And it just puts on so much pressure in some control matchups and just demands your opponent use a card like Brawl on it after it's already replaced itself. You know, you don't often see a Merlin Rabbit getting brawled besides specific situations where they're expecting to bounce, but this thing is going to ask for it, and it just gets you a lot of cards back. Definite, super strong start to our top 10. Number 9, Simba Pride Protector. 5 cost, uninkable, 4/4 stat line, quest for 2. So this card is a shift 3, can pay 3 to put it on top of a Simba, and at the end of your turn, if this character is exerted, you may ready your other characters. This card's kind of bonkers, and there's a lot of potential talk for homes for it. Aggro, it's just a bodyguard on crack. Pardon me. It's just a bodyguard accelerated there. But where I really like seeing it shine is in Steel Song. You can do some really funny stuff with this, especially looking into the 1-cost Simba where you draw and discard a card. Maybe the bodyguard Simba as well, but just being able to protect your singers from being challenged or being rushed in by a Maui is fantastic. If he, just one ready up is just such an incredibly powerful play if you have a wide board, which seems to be the direction that Steel Song's pulling in right now. In aggro, I don't really need to explain it, but you play it on top of Bodyguard Simba, and it's just a direct upgrade, especially if you play it on 3. Well, I wouldn't want to play it on 3, because you'd go 1 Daisy, 2 Simba, 3 Big Simba, and you'd re-ready your Daisy. I mean, I'm sure there's plays for it, but definitely an insane card that's going to have some pretty powerful niches in the meta. You may wonder, why is it so far? This is in a lot of people's top 5s, and just because it's an Amber, really, I feel like is going to kind of not hold it back, but you just make it a card you have to think about a little bit before you just splash it into everything. And the high uninkable cost is tough. Not a deal breaker at all. Every card in this top 10 list is a fantastic card on its own right. Just throwing that out there. I wish I could have made a top 20 list. Number 8, Diablo Obedient Raven. It is a 1-cost inkable, 0/1, quest for 1. Whenever this character is banished, you may draw a card. Oh, buddy. I have waited for a card like this. This is fantastic. And pardon me being an Emerald Amethyst player and just going off on a card like this, but it just fills such a niche in the 1-drops. It's truly an awesome card, and if your opponent doesn't challenge into it, it's just sitting there waiting on a Merlin Crab or a Cricky to boost it up and take just a super big power trade into something. And it fills an interesting bridge by giving us a strong 1-cost shift Diablo. So if we ever did want to play an Emerald Amethyst Diablo deck for the 3-cost, I talked about the 3-cost Diablo, we would have 8 potential 1-costs to hit, making our combo more consistent, where we can mulligan and keep the big Diablo and feel a lot safer with it than you would playing something like Emerald Steel. Just depends. We don't have as many good actions as Emerald Steel, but I don't even know if I want to ship this. This is a This is a fantastic card. Super excited. I've been testing it quite a bit, and it performs as well as I would hope. Definitely a body, and just something to make your opponents think twice into trading into it. It gives us a turn 1 play against songs that is not just a pass. So say they open up Cinderella, or if you're up against Green Steel and they open up Diablo, now they have to think about their shift or the Cinderella singing Let the Storm Rage On into your Diablo, because it's just going to cycle a card for you. What do you care? That's fine. And if it doesn't, hey, it's a body. That's even better. I don't know. Fantastic card. Definitely will see quite a bit of play between all of the mini Amethyst decks. I love this. Number 7, You Came Back. 3-cost, uninkable action. Ready chosen character. If there is a card that I could bet money, so let's say there's Vegas odds on Lorcana cards, of which card that's going to be used for degenerate things, I'd put my life savings on this card. There is something inherently broken about being able to just ready up a character. We hear people talking about blue-green discard and ramping up and discarding your opponent's hand with new cards like the Basil or the new Jafar action. And meanwhile, I'm just thinking, I'm like, looking at this card, and I'm thinking, this looks pretty good with Aerial Dime. You just hit your opponent for a solid 15 in a turn with a warded character, and it's like, well, what could I do? This card's bonkers. It will find a way to be broken. I don't know how splashable it is. It almost needs to be kind of included in just the theory behind the deck for it to be a really powerful card. It could also be splashable in something like a 2-of in some things, like Emerald Amethyst. It's interesting, and it's a card that people are going to have to adapt into. So let's say you, once again from our Emerald Amethyst players, you go shift Ursula on turn 5 and quest for 3. And then on the next turn, your opponent's expecting another quest for 3. Shift Ursula is not the easiest card to answer. You could hit him for 6 in a turn. You could double exert things. You could ready a character and sing again. This, with Ursula Deceiver of All, is deceptively powerful in many different decks. Because readying her up and having 2 songs in your hand and utilizing that character twice in a turn, there is the opportunity for this to see some play in Green Steel as well. Mostly for the Deceiver of All antics, but for some other stuff, you can sing a Sudden Chill with Prince John and then re-ready him back up to keep him protected. I don't know. It's an interesting card. And I definitely think it's not a super healthy card going forward. We look at how costly it's been to ready a character and how rare it's been to ready a character and be able to quest twice in a turn so far. And I think just having that on a 3-cost action, even uninkable, is just pretty powerful. But we'll see. We'll see how it ages. Let's move on to number 6. Yzma, Conniving Chemist. 4-cost, inkable, 3/3, 2 quests for 2. Stats aren't bad. Stats aren't bad for a 4-cost. Not mad about it. But here's what we talk about. Feel the power. Exert. You exert this character, so you can't do it on the turn you play her, but you exert this character. If you have fewer than 3 cards in your hand, draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. This effect is mini Clarabelle in a different way. This is a fascinating card because when you look at discard in a vacuum, they take the game over by using powerful combinations of their card to reduce your hand down to rubble. And here's a card that's not just the easiest thing to answer outside of a strength into with a developed board behind it. It's a 3/3, it does fine. For 4 costs, you can't ask for too much more. And it just gives you a potential out to that. It's like almost like an inkable Merlin Rabbit in that case. It's really a fascinating card, and at Quest for 2, there's just a lot you can do with this. I personally will be experimenting with this card in Emerald Amethyst. It may be a little too slow from the take we have to go into, but I think this can be very powerful into the upcoming meta. Fantastic card. Was very tough to not enter the top 5, but I will say the top 5 are cards that's going to fundamentally change the way the game is played. This is a almost silver bullet card. It's a card that helps answer an archetype, but is not necessarily the answer for an archetype. It's just another very good card to have if discard's strong and you're playing purple. Purple does well into discard anyways, but hey, I'm not mad about an extra answer. But yeah, like I said, every card from here on out will be something that I believe is so powerful. Each one of these cards are going to fundamentally change the way the game is played. So, number 5, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. If you've looked into the set, and especially read this card, you may be like, Mo, why is this so far down? I say wait till you see the other 4. 2 cost uninkable, 2/1. Getting ahead of myself. Quest for 2. Fantastic. Not bad for blue. What in the world? This thing Quest for 2. I didn't actually realize that. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an item card, play it for free. It enters play exerted. Otherwise, put it on the bottom of your deck. In terms of cards that are not going to age well in being fair, this is definitely one of them. There are not too many ways to stack your deck outside of the combination of blue-green right now, but this card has the ability to pop off so hard, and it adds an interesting luck factor. So you compare it to a card like Chicha. Chicha is very comparable. Similar stats, I think the exact same stat line until you get to how much this thing quests for. But just for inking for your turn, you get to look at the top card. If it's one of your 16 items, hey, you get to play it for free. Doesn't matter if it's an ice block or a lucky dime. It just hits the field. And it's one less card you'll be drawing. And so your deck is progressively stacking cards on the bottom, and the longer Oswald sits on the field, the higher chance you have of just hitting multiple items in a turn and just having one of the craziest plays. Why blue needed this card? I don't know. Not a game designer, obviously, but this is just one of the craziest cards. If we talk blue-green, blue-green's an interesting color type I've looked at coming up. You have Hypnotic Deduction. You can stack the top of your deck and follow it up with an ink and be able to just start popping off with Oswald. And he can do things like sing one jump ahead to further it. Whenever you ramp, it lets you look at the top card of your deck. And when you have cards like Popsicle, like Fortisphere for blue steel, that can just lead you into more cards, this card becomes a problem real quick. Especially when compared to something like Chicha, who's a once per turn, once per copy per turn. And I think Oswald has some potential to be just absolutely busted for an archetype that did not need another busted card. But that's okay. At least they're not ramping on 2 if they play this guy. That's all I can say right now. Let's move on to number 4. Lilo Escape Artist. So this was a late reveal, so if you haven't seen her yet, get ready. This card is crazy. 2 cost, inkable, 1/2. Quest for 2. Okay. At the start of your turn, if this character is in your discard, you may play her, and she enters play exerted. To clarify, you still have to pay ink to play her. You still have to pay your 2 ink to play her. And she comes into play Azurite, but this is free resources. This is free resources for aggro. This is free resources for Steel Song. If you go with Steel Song and rip a turn 2 Whole New World and discard 2 Lilos, that's insane. This card is absolutely one of the first discard interactions we've seen in Lorcana, and I don't know if you've played other card games that have quite a bit of discard interaction, but Yu-Gi-Oh being the first that comes to mind, there's generally going to be a breaking point where that just becomes broken for the game. This isn't too broken, but if you look at it, sure, it's a 1-2, that's easy to answer. Your opponent's answering this every turn, and that's them not questing. That's them saying, I'm going to hit this 1-2. That's them giving up, getting chipped on their health. It's still a resource, and it diverts attention from your opponent at worst, and at best, you get another 2-quester from the discard. That is insane. This card has so many synergies with all of the discard interactions. You play something like the 1-cost Simba, discard around 2, you have a turn 2 play without giving up a card in your hand. That's incredible. This card is one of the most outwardly crazy things I've seen in Lorcana so far, and I imagine she's going to do some pretty powerful things. In terms of health of the game, I think this is a relatively healthy card-ish. It's interesting, at least. It's a slippery slope from here on out, though. If you got to just play her for free every turn, oh my gosh, please don't do that. But still paying the 2 and having the resources come from your discard is so good. So good. Let's move on. A Maui Shark. Maui half shark, 6-cost, inkable, 7/5. Stat line is pretty good. It reminds me of the other Maui. The other thing that's crazy about this card, it's evasive for some reason. Why did they decide to make him evasive? I don't know. But here we go. When this character challenges another character, you may return an action card from your discard to your hand. Very powerful effect in the decks that will play him. If you see this in Ruby Sapphire, if you see this in Ruby Amethyst, you can almost certainly assume they're getting a Brawl back, they're getting a Be Prepared back, they're getting a How Far I'll Go back. This thing gives you so many free resources potentially, because it's a 7/5 evasive. That is incredibly difficult to deal with. It just demands a Maleficent Dragon or a Be Prepared or even a Dragonfire, which may start seeing some play because of this card. Now, I don't even think that's the most busted part about this card. So, wayfinding. When you play an action, gain 1 lore. Some people are thinking, oh, that's going to be such a combo card, we should do this, play him with all these low-cost actions. And I think this card just makes any kind of red splash mirror into a toxic mess of a game. So if you think of the Ruby Sapphire mirror, it's a very passive, drawn-out mirror. But when you have a card like Maui Shark, and you can start gaining lore by playing things like Visions of the Future, like One Jump Ahead, Hideaway, anything like that, and just start passively gathering your lore to set yourself up for your Tamatoa Dime turn, it just gets crazy so fast. This will definitely change the way decks are built and trying to find answers for it. Now let's talk about why this card's not number 1, because in terms of effects and just what you get for what you pay, this is one of the most busted cards Lorcana has ever seen. I feel like this is a set 1 card almost. It has that much going for it. But why is it not number 2 or number 1? Well, it needs a combo to do something on the turn it's played generally. It comes out for 6. It needs you to have an action in your hand to start gaining lore, which is only crazy relevant in game states you're either already winning or the mirror. And then the second thing is if you have the Vitalisphere. Everyone's talking because Ruby Sapphire already plays Vitalisphere, quite a lot of them, not all of them. and you just play the Vitalisphere, and then you drop him on the turn, and then he swings into something, 7/5, huge, answers something on this point, gets you an action back, which is absurdly powerful. But it requires you to have a prior investment. And these next two cards I'm going to talk about are so inherently powerful on their own that I think warrant the spots I gave them. But 3, 2, 1 on this list are all just obscenely powerful cards that you're going to have to respect in any deck that plays this. To talk a little bit more about decks that this fits in, you're definitely going to see it in Ruby Sapphire. Ruby Amethyst is going to play with it. Ruby Amethyst is an interesting play because it doesn't necessarily answer something right on the spot, but it gives you such an edge in the mirror where they almost have to be prepared and not just get like such massive advantage with it. I don't know. It'll definitely change the way Ruby Amethyst decks are built to account for this card in some way, shape, or form. A lot of people like to talk about it in Ruby Steel or the Robin Hood decks. I don't think it's going to be that good in the Robin Hood decks. It'll be fine, but generally if you've already resolved the Robin Hood and you put stuff in your discard, you're already in such a good game state to move on. But the problem with the Robin Hood decks is it relies on a 1/4 questing, an uninkable 1/4, so it's a little bit tricky. Yeah, this card's insane. This will probably be the most hyped card of the set, and one of the most valuable cards on release because it is a legendary. It's insane. I am dreading playing against this monstrosity, but let's move on. Just wait till you see the next ones. Sail the Azurite Sea. 2 cost, inkable. This turn, you may put an additional card from your hand into your inkwell, face down, draw a card. So let's talk about this card real quick. The card that you put into your inkwell, even though it gets put in face down, must still be inkable. It's not the same wording as Tipo, or it's more of a bell than it is a Tipo or a fishbone quill. But the other things that come into play here is it comes in unexerted, it's a fresh ink, and this card replaces itself. So this warps so many decks Ruby Sapphire matchup. I played discard decks in the last 2 DLC. I didn't play, in my Emerald Amethyst wasn't a discard deck, but I played a discard route because I knew how powerful Ursula, Deceiver of All, Devil Singing Sudden Chill was against Red Blue. Because if you think about their turn 1, they're going to play an item, probably a Popsicle. Turn 2, they play a Tipo or a 1 jump ahead. A 1 jump ahead takes 1 card out of their hand, and a Tipo takes 2 cards out of their hand. If they're inking for turn, that's 2 and 3 cards. So they're already putting themselves on such low advantage that if you can attack them and get rid of their items before Hiram is able to pop off, you can get so much work done against these decks. This card warps that because it is a Tipo / 1 jump ahead that replaces itself on the spot, and it's an inkable card for some reason. It is just almost a pure example of power creep. It's not necessarily, but it is an incredibly powerful card moving forward because you can't attack this deck in the same way because their advantage is not going to dip so low. They already get a replacement card. And in the late game, when they would typically be drawing their Tipo, when they would be drawing their 1 jump ahead, that's a dead draw for Ruby Sapphire. But this just lets them cycle a card, which is incredible. And it's an action that pairs well with this guy. Gets them the 1 lore for 2 ink. That's insane. And then the other broken part about this card is the ink comes in unexerted. So that gives them so many lines of play on turn 2 that they didn't previously have. I am an Emerald Amethyst player. I look to Clarabelle as a way to deal with their typical mulligan, and this card can throw a wrench in that. This says they can have 2 items up by the time they play Hiram. If they open up 2 popsicles and assail the Azurite Sea, they're going to have so much advantage just off of being able to play that second popsicle in turn 2 that it puts you in a bad way. And this card also, I don't know many decks that are playing the full 8 ramp options on turn 2, but this adds another ramp option on turn 2. Their mulligans are going to be more consistent. And that ramp option on turn 2 is so very important, almost more important than their item, because of how powerful their 4-drops are. This card is insane. And me, as not typically a Sapphire player, I'm kind of, I have mixed feelings about this existing, but you can't argue its power level. Most people consider this the best card in the set for very good reason. I'm not one of them. Let me talk to you about number 1. My completely unbiased pick for the best card in Azurite Sea is Go Tomago, Darting Dynamo. Alright. 2 cost, inkable, 2/2, quest for 1, it's evasive. When you play this character, you may pay 2 extra to gain lore equal to the damage on chosen opposing character. This card is the card I've been waiting for at Emerald Amethyst. This is our power creep. This is our power leap. This is a card that gives us some fantastic ways to close out the game as a 4-drop, and as a 2-drop, it's just a good card to play. It is a 2-cost, 2/2 evasive. You know, like, you think about all the Diablo answers in the format right now, well, now we can demand those. We can request those from our opponent. We have a much smoother turn 2 outside of playing a Bonsai or an Ursula 2. There's so many situations where I feel like I have to play Ursula Deceiver on 2 because it's part of my curve, even though she'd be better played on 3 after an Aerial is played. This just gives us an extra 2-drop to potentially make our mulligan better. But let me talk to you about this thing in the late game. This has the most lore burst potential out of nearly any card in the game. Technically any, but realistically out of nearly any. This is bounceable. It's evasive. It's not the easiest thing for your opponent to just deal with. If you play this on 2, bounce it with Fox on 3, run into something, and then you can ping them for whatever damage if they survived, is insane. If your opponent is questing with Tamatoa in the late game to add their items back to try to game you on the next turn, you can make so many plays happen with this and Fox just to finish the game. And even, like, you pay the 2 extra ink. Now, let's talk about a card that I'm a little known for, but Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. It's really interesting with this card. So if you play it, and you have, say, Ursula Deceiver, so you go this on 2, Deceiver on 3, find a way to ping some damage, and then sing the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo on 4, pay all 4 ink to just hit them for a good chunk of lore on that turn. This is everything Emerald Amethyst needed to be back on, like, just to earn the respect out of the other decks in the meta. There is a lot of scariness that gonna come from the blue decks coming forth, and there's gonna be a lot of different blue decks. It's gonna be hard to keep up with them all. But I think this is a massive tool to give us an out. This is the GOAT bounce of the future-ish. This doesn't replace GOAT, don't get me wrong. But you just find ways with this card to checkmate your opponent. And that is so incredibly powerful. We have the tools to be aggressive in the early game. We have the tools to gain a large amount of lore in before the game goes on too long. And then you have cards like this that can just combo so well into various things. If they take a Maui and swing into something, and you swing your goat into that Maui, you know, say they kill a merfolk with it, I don't know. There's a lot of situations. This card is hard to talk about in a vacuum because it's a card that depends on what your opponent has. It depends on what the board state is, what they're doing. But the one thing I know about EA is they're going to have to start challenging your characters eventually. There's not enough removal in the world. Like, if they're just saying, I'm going to wait until turn 8 to drop Sisu on you, we'll usually have won against those decks by that point. Not that red-blue drops Sisu on turn 8, sorry. But it just gives us an option to have creative ways to end the game that not every player out there is going to register. You're going to be able to quest up to something like 14 and make a power play with this. Shoot yourself up to 18 and play a goat before your opponent's like even knows what's going on. And this card pairs fantastically with Lyle Tiberius Rourke, which is another card that EA just absolutely adores. And just making your opponent have to go reckless, have to start racking up these damage counters. Your opponent's damage characters are going to become a liability. So, if I'm talking about power levels in a vacuum, is this card more powerful than Maui Shark or Sail the Azurite Sea? No, those are already powerful decks. But this gives us such a jump that I think we are going to compete with them very well. One day they will release tokens and you will be a playable card. God, I wish I played during the Stitch set champs. Oh, hey, sorry, I was talking to cards again. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed everything. Please let me know down below if you have any questions. I've got 2 different videos coming for you in the next couple days. One will be geared towards newer players, but I still think it would be fun for everyone. And the other is my long-awaited Set 6 Emerald Amethyst deck list and discussion. Until then, guys, I'll catch you later. Peace.